COVID-19, and the pandemic has impacted normal functioning of various sectors. Now, today, we want to particularly focus on a very important area, the environment and climate change. What has been the impact on this? I'm joined for this conversation by renowned environmentalist and entrepreneur, Dr. Kalua Green, Isaac Kalua Green. He joins us via Zoom for this conversation. And thank you so much, Doc, for joining us here this morning on KTN News Center. I mean, the country, rather globally, people have talked about, the effect of COVID-19 on businesses, on the health sector, on the tourism sector. But one of the sectors that has been forgotten is environment, and one would ask the question, how has it affected the environment?
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you, congratulations for launching a new newspaper. As a commentator, I definitely would be very happy to see my column on Sunday on a new newspaper, so congratulations. But on matters COVID-19, you have raised very important issues. This COVID issue and challenge is global, and we need also to look at all aspects and not just one side of it. The issue, there are various impacts, whether positive or negative, but one of the most important ones is the fact that we have cleaner air, we have cleaner water that we have also experienced. The cleaner air because there is reduced travel by various people because meetings are no longer there, tourists are reduced. Some of the institutions, factories and institutions of this kind of nature have reduced in terms of their production. So this is leading to so many opportunities that are positive in the environment. There is also danger hidden in the increased cutting of trees and those kind of things which are happening in different places because there is not so much vigilance that is taking place. And therefore, some of these things have affected the environment. And you can imagine even the depository of the masks which has been deposited in the environment. It is causing a lot of clogging and a lot of mismanagement of solid wastes, which also brings with it opportunities that we need to capture so that we can create hope, even as we look at some of these issues. So they are vast. If you talk about them, we can talk about them until tomorrow. But the fact is, there are positive and negative environmental challenges that we have had over the years, over the 1 year. And therefore, it's something that we need to appreciate.
You're talking about, the positive side of COVID-19 when it comes to environment. You've mentioned like less emissions, less travels because of the restrictions that have been put in place and many more. But then if we look at how disposal of, it's good you've also talked about it, how the disposal of face masks, but of a concern even as of last week when journalists were asking the Ministry of Health is of the PPEs, their disposal has not been good, especially when it comes to environmental matters and also when it comes to the health of other Kenyans, because you've seen it in the media, especially the print of how people have been donning some of those PPEs that have been thrown away, not in a good manner. Yeah,
this is, you're right, and it's a very serious challenge. You can imagine figures have been floated that we are using 6.8 billion masks on a daily basis globally. The gloves alone and the masks, they lead to about 200 billion units every single month globally. We have a big share as a country, just like other countries across the world. And this is leading to clogging of our water systems. It is leading to also secondary infections of COVID-19. And for me, it portrays and brings out a very large opportunity, which actually will cover my piece on Monday on Sunday on my column, because I see this as an opportunity that we can create jobs. Countries like France and other countries in England have already realized that masks up to about 3 million in number can create part of the materials to make a road, a double-use road, which can be mixed up and shredded and be used on road. In England, they are using masks in terms of refreshing them and using them for materials to be used as furniture. And these are things that can be done here locally. So even as we cry out there, I see an opportunity that as a country, we could be able to use some of the funds in their billions that we are receiving in support of COVID to create hope, because COVID has come with loss of jobs. And yet it has also come with the opportunities for jobs for those who are thinking wisely, so that they can be able to employ these to be of an advantage to the community. So this is something that can happen if we have collection centers, proper management of solid waste, using innovative ways like they're being used in other places of the world, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel, and then be able to create jobs for our youth so that we can deal with this. But indeed, it is a serious pandemic also environmentally, because this is plastics. You can imagine it ends up also in the waters where we have fish, and they take up this. Our animals are also exposed to having these items, thinking that they are edible, and they eat and they end up with other challenges. So they are vast. And instead of crying foul as a country, instead of seeing the pandemic, I come from the school of thought that just sees opportunity inside a crisis. And therefore, because in every crisis there is an opportunity, the secret lies in identifying the same. And therefore, I want to encourage leaders.
Mm-hmm. But then, you know, Doc, we can't also ignore the growing heaps of plastics, disposable ones, when it comes to online shopping. Because right now, we're seeing a lot of packaging in general has increased heavily because people are ordering things online in terms of even food. And this involves a lot of packaging. When I'm done, I throw it. So clearly, this will definitely affect the environment, the online shopping that globally people are doing right now because of the pandemic.
It is true. And as you are aware, Kenya has banned plastics. But the same is coming back through a backdoor route, and therefore we need to deal with it. And we need to support institutions like NEMA, because you realize that we have all the laws that we need. But again, we don't have the capacity to implement some of these things and be able to soldier the process so that we cannot have this. So institutions like NEMA needs to be given enough money to do this. But more importantly, the advocacy at the county level, at the constituency level, at the ward level, to be able to bring out these issues, to engage the media. You are doing a good job because this is what you should be doing. And also engaging other stakeholders to understand the danger of this, because step by step, we will be able to bring out this to the populace, and they will be the best implementers of these processes. Policies are not enough. As a matter of fact, Kenya is one of the leading countries in the world with enough policies that if implemented, then we can be able to deal with this. So policing is something that needs to be done and supported so that we are our own brothers' keepers, because we understand fully the dangers of all these processes in the environment.
All right. And Prof, you know, before COVID-19, the world was concerned about the global warming, and now the pandemic came. It's now past a year since the world reported that issue of COVID-19. And there is a concern that as much as there's less of emission, carbon emission, there is still a concern to have about global emission. I mean, the climate crisis globally. And this is because there's still, you know, some arguments that the rich people are still destroying it. Kind of break down that for us.
Global emissions is a serious challenge. As you may be able to know, 72%, I think, as reported previously, is caused by airplanes. And therefore, the mode of travel by air leads to 72% of greenhouse emissions. 11% is on automobiles and other equipment that I think that is by one of the institutions called Hanninger's, I think, a report of 2020. So this is a fact. And what the COVID-19 has brought to us is that here we are. How many times have you invited me to KTN to come and have an interview? Mm-hmm. We are here doing this on Zoom. It's such an advantage. We have saved that movement. How many meetings have we had globally that would have led us to travel to different parts of the world? And yet Zoom has taught us, and COVID has taught us this. So what we need to do going forward is to create policies that are going to reduce such movements so that we can reduce the greenhouse emissions. Mm-hmm. We adjust our budgets so that we do not have more of those kind of budgets that allow the travels and the allowances that people would be able to be enticed to travel. So through policies and company institutional guidelines mm-hmm. on how to hold meetings, because we have seen the advantage of this, need to be uplifted so that we can enjoy the advantages that we have seen in this. Mm-hmm. And the same for other areas, including water pollution, because industries have reduced, littering, and even more interesting, which is out of what you have asked me, the level of...
Kwetu tumesaliwa tu watu wa mchezo. Na ikakuwa hivyo sawa, kutoka hapo nikawa bado naimba.
With each other. Right. And opportunities that now have been closed because of minimal interaction. So wastage in total. So these are some of the things, and I think policy and policing is what we need to ensure that it can be upheld.
So, Dr. Green, you know, from explanation, it looks like the lockdown it looks like, yes, it's sufficient to counteract climate change, but this seems only to be a temporary thing. So we need like a lasting solution when it comes to the, the global, the climate change.
They look like short-term, but I think there are long-term measures that we clearly can pick from this. It's a matter of how we think and how we apply this. But you see, also comparing climate change, because we had a discussion the other day, someone talking about the effects of climate change compared to COVID and what can be done. I think they are incomparable. And if you look at the number of deaths that have been caused by climate change, what is anticipated between 2030 and 2050 is about 250,000 deaths. When you look at climate change, it is when you look at COVID, it's already done 3 million within a very short span of period. Mm-hmm. But to mention to you what you're asking is picking the experiences that we have seen and riding on them, creating policies and trying to educate our own people of what we can be able to do to sustain. The secret lies in sustaining this process. It's about human beings going back to where we were, but you can imagine even after this process, we are still going to have more people dying out of COVID-19, and they are going to be there. This is a permanent thing that resides with us, whether with vaccine or no vaccine. Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to start. Interactions will definitely be less. Mm-hmm. There will be more of uptake of the online meetings than they were before. Mm-hmm. So this is just what needs to be implemented so that we can take advantage of such processes.
Mm-hmm. So, Doc, yes, you've given us an explanation in terms of the positive and the negativity, and also how at least the world has gotten a bit of some reprieve when it comes to global warming, the climate change with COVID-19. But what are some of the lasting solutions that the world needs to start having a conversation on when it comes to COVID-19, the environment, and global warming?
Clearly, one thing that we have understood is that what happens here affects anyone in India, in China, and in America, and all over the world, including Europe and all other places. So we agree that we have one global challenge which must be dealt with. This is the environment. The clean air that we have is something that we must be able to protect. And therefore, actions will need to be placed according to what strength each country has. We have an opportunity of lifting up the coverage of forest in our area so that other countries, including our very own, do receive cleaner air. We have opportunities now that we imagine out of the emissions of factories of not going the coal way and going the renewable energy way. As a matter of fact, looking at what can be done in terms of solar, in terms of all these activities. We also have activities because we also realize that people have lost jobs. How can we retain jobs in all this? Because activity, human activity in all this, over and above the protection and following the protocols, our own body activity leads to safety in terms of keeping ourselves in all these places. Leading to activities that I have just talked about, the reuse of masks and PPE activities in their billions on a monthly basis, and also using funds that have already been received from the international partners to be able to take relevant activities, uptake of the internet across our country, use of different activities and other items that would sound so scientific if I talk about them now. I'm just keeping it light for the sake of our viewers. Because I keep noticing that we tend to complicate the environmental subject instead of bringing it down to the people.
All right.
In simple terms, if tell an African person to conserve the environment, you'll be left alone. But show them how to make money, they will go that route. So let's simplify the challenges and monetize them and help our people understand the opportunities that are hidden in this process as we deal with the challenges. And you'll find that activities will just pop up in different places based on what each and every individual can be able to do, and companies coming up with innovative ideas that can change our nation and the future of this country.
But then, Doc, just from hearing what you're saying, then it looks like, with the production of the disposable masks, not the reusable ones, because reusable, clearly, you have to wash and reuse it, but disposable masks. And countries like, different countries globally, let me not mention the countries, but different countries globally have been focusing on the reusable masks. So clearly, does it mean, or is it a way that these countries are sort of trying to send to the world that we cannot fully adhere to some of the deals that we signed when it comes to, protecting the environment? Because even from what you said earlier on, disposable masks, when it's brought together billions and billions, that can make, like the infrastructure of different countries.
And your question is whether we can?
My question is, are we seeing countries that signed the deal in terms of, deals that have to do with protecting the environment slowly moving away from it when it comes to the production of masks? Because countries are producing the disposable masks, which is also affecting the environment.
Yeah, I think it all starts with every one of us understanding the process. First of all, the disposable masks will take long before they ever disappear from us, because they are in our hospitals, they are in our health centers that are out there, and they have to be deposited somehow, either through incineration at the end of the day or solid waste management. And the fact is that the reusable masks are equally safe. And they can be reused, they can be washed, and there are countries that are really insisting on that, including Japan, which is making very environmentally friendly masks that can be reused or even be thrown away, but they are easily environmentally friendly. Countries need to be able, and Kenya needs to take lead in all this, not necessarily copying what others are doing, but looking at the opportunities that lies in all this. You can imagine how many number of masks that are coming into this country, and the opportunity that lies in engaging our youth at their best to simply produce masks that can be able to be reused at different levels, and then working on a plan of depository of the same, because that also creates an opportunity. So countries have different ways, but for me, I said, if we think as Kenya, if we think as our own community and trying to fit in the global space, we will be able to identify, and the direction is simple for me. What are the opportunities, seemingly opportunities, without necessarily copying what India, China, US, and others are doing, and try and identify what is this, even if it is going to cost a little more, but then it gives that social profit, then we need to apply and be able to take this up. Okay. I hope I have answered your question.
You have. You've answered it clearly, Doc. And finally, as we end up this conversation in a minute, so what is the new normal for, I didn't want to say environmentalists like you, because this is a plus for you and your colleagues in terms of how things have changed for the better for the environment. But what should be or is the new normal going forward for everyone globally as we try to preserve the environment and make it safe even for the future generations to come?
We have learned lessons, practical lessons, expensive lessons. We have lost lives. We have learned new ways of doing things, including meetings like we are having today. Who would have imagined today that I would be on KTN TV on Zoom? It was almost impossible. Even when you're out of the country, it was not a preferred station. You would have wanted your best lighting and best fitting because of your looks. But here we are. This is what I think I am taking home. I am also taking home the challenge that we have as a nation of matters like I talked about casually on matters of corruption. We need to digitize processes. When you are out there in America and Australia, you cross the line and a traffic light, and in the morning you have a ticket and you are reporting to the police and the insurance is with you and dealing with that. What a great opportunity to deal with matters corruption, just out of lessons that we have been taught to deal with, because if Zoom can happen for us to meet, then every process, including implementation of laws and all this, can be digitized because they've been done elsewhere. We are not reinventing the wheel. So there are issues and secrets that lie there, opportunities for our youth to deal with matters of business in terms of connecting to the entire world and having products that can be used globally, because it's about online services that we can be able to offer. There comes so many opportunities than we can ever count. The reusing of PPEs and the creation at what level. You can imagine if every county just created an opportunity for solid waste and management of PPEs, 500 from the 47 counties, that is 23,500 jobs created just overnight. And it can be sustained because we have capital that we can input in this space for us to be able to sustain this job. So a lot is learned, and I believe that we are keeping learning on how we can be able to manage this. And I encourage all environmentalists and everyone of sound mind that minds about their country and their family to be able to uptake what is already shared with the COVID-19 experience.
All right, you know, Doc, we bring this conversation to an end, but I'm also challenged because I use the disposable mask. At least now I'm challenged on how I need to take care of my environment in terms of ensuring that it's safe and clean. Asante sana, Dr. Isaac Kalua Green, for joining us here on KTN News Center. He's a renowned environmentalist who had a prominent presence on Africa's environmental scene for almost 3 decades, you know, understanding matters environment. Once again, Dr. Asante sana for joining us here on KTN News Center. I come back with more news making the headlines with a live link from my colleague Tobias Chanji on matters coastal politics.